Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Genesa ThoughtLab podcast.
We had an opportunity this time to sit down with our very close, lovely roommates, Ben and Austin, to talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is something that Austin has really taken a keen interest in and has been investing a lot of time and energy into. And just a lot of the conversations that we've had with him, we decided we wanted to get him on for an episode so that we can have the opportunity to not only learn more, but maybe get other people involved and a little bit more educated on the topic.
Yeah, somehow funnel some of the knowledge that he's been scooping lately. Bitcoin, he's been blowing mind with everything. It's definitely an ever-evolving currency that's very up and down, I guess, as are they all. But we went from that tangent to a whole bunch of other silly shit and ended up talking about the rampant flat earth theory that seems to be taking over social media. So yeah, this was just let's just go down to the basement and shoot the shit. It was pretty cool though. So enjoy another episode. Thanks guys.
The Genesa ThoughtLab video podcast.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello and welcome to the next episode of this crazy podcast we've got going on. Ben's sleeping already. Introductions. All right, we're here for the 7th installment of the Genesa ThoughtLab podcast.
At what point are we going to stop numbering them?
I don't think we should ever stop numbering them. That's
We're going to get to like
should move in on your microphone like a
episode
like a cougar
666. We're going to have to skip that one.
No, actually, on that
Number
note,
of the beast.
Rogan had his 666 episode recently, and he did it with Duncan, and they dressed up in costume. Duncan Trussell was dressed as the Pope, and Rogan was in an orange NASA like spacesuit. It was pretty good.
Love it.
But anyway, back to introductions. I'm Tanner Cherry. We're here with the wonderful Kali Yuga.
Hello.
Hello. And this is actually an all in-house episode with our two roommates, Austin Morris. I don't know what your alias is. I mean, do you have some
one.
sort of like secret hidden character that you
No.
Okay, just Austin then.
Yeah.
He is the boogeyman.
Ben Krumins?
Yeah,
Is that how you
Krumins.
say last
That's
name?
right,
Yes,
yeah.
Benjamind, he goes by.
That's right.
We're here, I don't know, we decided we wanted to do an episode on Bitcoin. Among other things, we'll probably end up trailing off and talking about stupid shit. But
As usual.
Yeah, as usual. But we've brought in world specialists
Yes.
to professionally talk shit.
Well, on that note, every Bitcoin podcast I have listened to thus far started with a disclaimer. We are not experts. Bitcoin is a new currency. Please, if you're taking our advice, do your own research.
Yeah.
Any and all money you lose is on you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, well, that assesses the risk question that I was going to bring up. I guess, I don't know, let's start there, because that was one of the first things that I thought about when Bitcoin was introduced to me was, is it safe? Because a lot of people are, like, really worried.
Yeah, it's actually, like, it's designed to be safe, right? Like,
Right.
there's it's like every 10 minutes or something, there's like a system refresh where it has to verify every transaction that's happened.
Yep.
And, like, the whole idea with a Bitcoin is you can, you can't track the transactions, but you can, the transaction history, but every transaction, like, leaves a mark, so you can tell, when a Bitcoin has been exchanged.
I wonder, is the transaction history going to end up getting so big that it's going to be a very, like, tough process to continually
They're facing
retrace?
that issue right now. There was a scalability concern earlier this month, and it's currently January 2016.
Right.
There was a big article from somebody that left the community recently that was trying to address those scalability issues.
Oh, I heard that was all overblown. Like, it bounced back already, right?
It did. It bounced back, fell down again. As it does, it's pretty volatile.
Yeah, I have the guy's name right here. I was just talking about him.
Anyway, yeah, he left because his particular solutions weren't adopted by the community.
Mike Hearn.
Yes, and he left.
He was the guy that made everything tank. Just
yeah,
recently.
he made
rage quit.
Yeah, he was pretty upset, but
That's exactly how Scott put it too.
his concerns were largely that the Bitcoin community has become centralized again, when its whole point was not central or to be decentralized. And already it's been kind of refuted, but the one thing that he was writing in his article is that it's a very speculatively driven value, because as soon as he launched his article, the Bitcoin price dropped about $90. So
Substantial. Now, has he gotten back on board, or was it a proper rage quit?
I think he left. I think he left completely.
He claimed he washed his hands of everything. His project that he was working on in his solution, which was named Bitcoin XT, which was his own version of the software, is still out there, and it can still be installed if people want to use it, but as far as we know, he's stopped development on it, so it'll be obsolete here fairly soon. However,
He's not going to pass it off to somebody to help to continue.
Was it open
development, or-
source? Because I think all the Bitcoin programmings are completely open source, so
Yeah.
you can modify them as you need.
So wait, what you're saying is that this Bitcoin X, it's the same Bitcoin, just a different software to use it, or
Yeah.
he's just trying to do something
Like
completely
it's like a
different?
patch.
they compare it as like the different browsers you can use to surf the internet. Like it's the same internet, but you can use Mozilla, or you can use Netscape, or you can use Internet
Mozilla.
Explorer. Yeah,
Calling it by its first name.
we're on a first
You
name
guys must be
basis.
pretty close friends, huh? Interesting.
Well, Fox is my spirit animal. Me and Mozilla know each other pretty well.
that fiery redhead.
Actually, fox suits you kind of
Yeah,
well.
thanks.
I could see
I
you
like Gazelle.
I could see you prancing in the snow like a fox does.
I do prance.
Oh, I can prance.
I can skip as fast as I can sprint.
I'm so impressed.
Right?
And just to address your question about the risk part, just because it is very speculative, it can be risky in that its price can go up and down like $1 or $2 minute by minute. The other thing is like data loss. As I know you have a personal experience because of
Yeah.
you.
Hey now,
Callie went katana on our computer.
that was not my fault.
That was Burning Man's fault, apparently.
Yes, your computer got in the way of my cell phone hitting the table.
So if you have your Bitcoin stored on a hard drive and someone punches it, you likely are to lose all of your coins. Unless you have a backup of it or have other means of data recovery
Now,
and data backup.
what do you mean by backup? How can you back up a Bitcoin? Is that technically duplicating it, or well, obviously not, but
No, you take a code that represents that Bitcoin, and then you can store that code. You can write it down on a piece of paper, keep it in your wallet.
Kind of
and
like
then,
how dollar bills are numbered. They all have their own individual number printed somewhere.
Yeah.
The way it could work, the wallet I have on my phone, which I use Coinbase's software, the way I would do it is I would just create a backup file stored off of my phone, and it just is it has a key in the backup where once I try and restore that key, it'll log into the Bitcoin network, recognize my address, and say these coins belong to this person because they have that key, and then just refresh based on that 10-minute cycle of where it's always keeping a record. So that's one way to do the backup. You can back it up on the web servers because Coinbase actually has its own service on the web too. But that goes on to the other point about risk is if you use web storage. There was an incident a couple of years ago with a website called Mt. Gox, which was also a Bitcoin exchange similar to Coinbase.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, I think it was like $5 million worth of Bitcoins, or 5 million Bitcoins were just gone overnight. And that caused its own price tank back in, I
have
think,
they figured out what happened? Or
It was like a malicious code in the site, I think.
Go to the
a
Matrix.
malicious
Agent
code
Smith.
in the site. So
Yeah,
did
so
somebody
so,
benefit
so it
from
was
this?
it was the website people were using to trade Bitcoins. Like that site, either someone hacked it or there was a.
So somebody made $5 million.
Well, theoretically, yeah, pretty much.
Or I guess right now, if a Bitcoin is worth if
I think they were probably more valuable then. I think that was right around that was when they peaked, right?
at around 1,000.
Yeah, they were
Oh,
close to
oh.
1,000 then.
that's okay. It must have been 5 million American or Canadian dollars worth, right? Because right
Yeah.
now they're at 540 Canadian dollars for one Bitcoin. So if you had 5
Yeah,
million Bitcoin,
they
you'd
were
be
no, they
unfathomably
I
rich.
think it was $5 million in Bitcoins.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think.
That's probably that's the number they'd probably throw out because it's a number that would relate to people.
Yeah.
Because right now, if you say I have this many Bitcoin, a lot of people are like, well,
What's that, like 5
what is
cents?
that? Like, what is that in Monopoly? Like,
But I think it was the biggest trading site, right?
At the time
and then
it
everybody
was.
just jumped ship, right? Because
because it was compromised.
Yeah.
Well, with that then, like if you're saying that each Bitcoin has its own code, the Bitcoins that were lost, would they not then be able to be traced?
well, those were Bitcoins that like weren't stored and keyed in that way. Those were like Bitcoins that people were making transactions with and stuff, and then I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but
Well-
like the transaction just never happened and they got lost. They might have just
okay.
gotten deleted,
'Cause I
or
was
someone
gonna
might have
say,
been able to
aren't
harvest
they,
them.
Aren't they by nature supposed to have a completely traceable track record, like from every account to every account?
Well, this
You're
might-
not supposed to know account to account. I think there's just supposed to be like Bitcoins were exchanged, because that's the whole attraction of using them to, you know, buy guns and
As a crypto.
drugs with,
Yeah.
right? Is because they are untraceable.
Well, this might be a good time to switch to the exchange here. Or
Okay.
the other
Yeah,
window.
do
Yeah,
you
sure.
have the keyboard? We're gonna pull up some stuff. So you people that aren't watching on YouTube, you know, you're getting screwed because we got some interesting stuff on the screen here.
So
It's just a bunch of graphs and numbers, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It
boring
goes up
stuff.
a little bit, and it goes down a lot.
Think
and
of
then
the
it goes
Rocky
up a bit.
Mountains.
Yeah.
Castle Mountain. It's like a profile of Castle Mountain.
So this is Coinbase's Bitcoin exchange software, and it's one that I use. And let's say if it was Mt. Gox, the way that hack likely happened, based on my understanding, is like if somebody had a Facebook account hacked, they lost their password, or their password was compromised, or their website, their password or email was compromised so that somebody could get into their account and like change their
Okay,
Facebook password. If somebody got into my account, they'd just be able to say, send my Bitcoins to any address that they wanted, to a limit, because I have set that. Also, there is some added security to this and other measures aside from just password protection. Every time I log in, it sends a code directly to my phone that I need to then enter via text message. So there's other
That's
levels
smart.
of
Oh, yeah.
security.
That's interesting. Now I see that they're like the refreshing and updating on this on this site for the market prices going very quickly. Is that like a real time?
Yep, this one's real time.
That's
This is what would usually be used for day traders and people trying to like make money on a day-to-day basis, which can be
trying
done.
to get lucrative.
Yeah, and actually, with the way mining's gone, day trading with the volatility of Bitcoin could be a better way to go, because as
Yeah, it can be very lucrative.
as Bitcoin's expanded, the mining process has been shifted, where it used to be anybody with a laptop when it first started out could make a decent number of Bitcoins. Now it's like the top few Bitcoin farms and
Yeah,
mining
it's like
operations.
venture capitalists investing millions of dollars into supercomputers to.
Yeah, see now.
So you know how the Bitcoin mining
Well,
works?
I wrote that down because I wanted to talk about that, because that was one of the most confusing things that first came. Like one of the questions that took the longest to make sense to me was this concept of mining Bitcoins. Like you think of like Minecraft, you've got your little pickaxe and you're just like looking at the rock trying to get Bitcoin.
So in this case, the pickaxe is like a math-solving computer program, and what it's trying to do is solve this complicated algorithm that is designed by the program. It's kind of the the genius invention that really makes Bitcoin what it is there's a complex algorithm that once your computer solves it, you get a prize of a Bitcoin. And, the more computers are trying to do it, the harder the algorithm gets. And over time, the harder the algorithm gets. Because there's only 21 million total Bitcoins.
Yeah.
So there's a cap. There's only ever going to be 21 million. That's a finite supply. So,
And
they're mining less and less by a factor of 10, I think, every year.
Half actually.
Half?
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
It goes down by 10. When it first came out, it was 50 every block completion, which is about 10 minutes. And then a few years ago, it got cut in half to 25, and it'll be this year, sometime in the early summer of 2016, it'll get cut in half again to 12 and a half. And it'll keep going like that until it hits the 21 million Bitcoin cap, and that's projected to hit at about the year 2140, like somewhere in there.
So what you're saying is Skynet has found a way to make us all dedicate our time to putting every computer we have into mining, or just this supercomputer network.
Oh, absolutely. Like, we're so invested in the internet right now. Like, the internet, it might as well be conscious because it's such a big part of our life. It's so influential. And if anybody tried to shut it down, like, there would be a goddamn uprising, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty sneaky, you know,
Well, they tried to do that
behavior,
in
right?
Egypt,
like,
right? The
yeah.
Egyptian government tried to take away internet from its people to, well, I think it was number one so that they couldn't
Communicate with each other, yeah.
show the world what was going on
Yeah.
there at the time during that revolution. But
There was even a lot of that going on, like in North America too. Like there was, or at least talks of you know, generally trying to control it or censor the internet, and even the uprising that came from that, like through social media and stuff. You can't do that.
Every
Well,
SOPA
the-
bill and
The TPP, I hear, has most of that stuff built into it, though, right? And the TPP's like so big. I don't know.
it's having to be released by WikiLeaks. That could be a whole podcast on its
yeah, I
own.
was just gonna say we could definitely slate that as an interesting thing to talk about, because this one for me has been like, I want to talk about Bitcoin more because I want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
I've been really curious, and it's been so inspiring watching fucking Austin just claw away. Like, it was probably a month ago.
Yeah.
that you
Less
were
than
just
that, it
everything.
feels
You were like,
like.
man, I'm
Yeah, it is less than a month. Well,
Every day you
month-
came
month
home.
now, I guess.
every day you came home, you were teaching me more and more, and of course I had all these absurd questions that I'm sure, you know, most people would want to know, and you were definitely really good at answering them. So it's like, we got to do this on a podcast. We got to get this going.
Yeah, our mutual friend Scott visited the house, and he reminded me of Bitcoin. He'd been posting a little bit about Facebook, and actually what he had mentioned that got me big into it recently was that it will be halved again in 2016, and that has a lot of speculation around its value and how it'll affect that.
So
well, it
then-
increases its scarcity, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
what's the ultimate goal of having a finite amount of Bitcoins? Like,
it's to make sure that they stay scarce, so they stay valuable. By
Right.
there only being a certain number that people can find and mine using these algorithms.
it's not just an infinite amount of money like what we
Exactly.
have going on right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a big concern lately about how the banks have been able to print money whenever they want.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Not even that. Most of the money in the world that exists right now isn't even printed. It's all within a computer anyway. So
Well, of course, yeah.
I guess the podcast that turned me onto this, I don't know, I think I listened to it about a year ago. What's his first name?
Andreas.
Andreas Antonopoulos. It was on.
It was like, that was 2 years
you
ago.
remembered his last name and not his first name.
Well, his last name is really unique.
That's okay. That's
It was 2 years ago. Yeah, I was just listening to it.
Yeah,
That's the
I don't think
exact-
I listened to it new. I think I rolled back through Rogan's. It was on the Joe Rogan Experience. And I
He's
think I
done
rolled back
3.
through the catalog.
He's done 3 with Andreas now.
Oh, okay. Well, I must have listened to the most recent one.
I went through all 3. Like,
That wasn't
like I
2
said,
years
for the
ago,
last
was it?
month, I've just been spending hours and hours in this.
Was that 2 years ago?
Could be.
I'm just seeing it was number 446, I think.
But for
That-
anybody
no.
else that's looking for new information on Bitcoin, Andreas is a phenomenal resource.
Does he have any? Sort
Yeah,
of,
that's January 27th, 2014.
Does he have any sort of podcast of his own?
I don't think he has.
Oh, that's
his
exactly
own.
2 years
He
ago, eh?
definitely has his own blog. He frequents the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the guy that runs that is very good at what he does. He's got his own startup going on with it as well. And actually, that'll be something else that now that Bitcoin's, I want to say leveled out, but it's still quite volatile. But it has leveled out relatively.
You can tell by the large peak in the
Yes.
middle of the screen. It's quite level.
Just waiting for the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner to come by and
Yeah, actually,
jump off the cliff.
that dip in the middle was when we were talking about that guy leaving.
Right.
Yeah, it was at
Yeah.
this point he released his article, and it fell to that about the next day or two.
So yeah, that's like 80, 90 bucks.
Yeah, I think it was 91 or something was the.
So, you know probably a little bit more about that than me, than my current thing. But like a month ago, you and I were talking about Bitcoin, and one of the things I was saying was, you know, if the goal of Bitcoin is for it to become mainstream and become, you know, like an everyday currency for a large population, then there's nothing really to stop, you know, banks and very powerful,
I
you know,
thought that,
investment
yeah.
firms to get involved, start hoarding all the Bitcoins, charging interest, lending them out,
Yeah, just trying
and
to take control of the
behaving
system.
and making it behave exactly like any other currency. Because, you know, there's no government regulation to prevent anything like that, then, you know, it's the Wild West. And since they already have all the money, they might as well have all the Bitcoins.
Even if
And
they
that's why Mike Hearn left, right? Is because, once again, it was becoming too centralized.
His concerns were mainly like, the way his idea would have to be implemented. His software was titled Bitcoin XT, and the way that they would vote on that was all of the people doing the current mining, like we said, it's scaled up to a point where it's only people that have invested millions of dollars into hundreds and thousands of servers. that are now able to actually vote on the Bitcoin network as to which software gets implemented. And his big deal was it's a very small minority of people, kind of like the central banks in the world, that now own the vast majority of that mining software. People on their laptops don't have that voting power anymore. So that was his big concern. He kind of tied it into China somehow. His big concern with that was because it's cheaper labor there, cheaper electricity. A lot of people have put their Bitcoin farms there, but also because China's got this firewall on their internet services, it's causing some congestion on the Bitcoin network.
Right.
Even though there's validations going through every 10 minutes, my first few Bitcoin transactions going from this exchange to my private wallet and then to another wallet that I've stored offline, and that's usually what you want to do as well. You don't want to keep your money in one spot like a Bitcoin exchange. You want to have your bank, have your wallet, and then have some stored secretly somewhere else. You don't want to have it all in one spot, otherwise you will
Kind of
lose
like
it.
like any currency, right? You want to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's truly a global currency, you have it wherever you have internet, is pretty fantastic. Or you could just write down the key for a specific amount of bitcoins that you have, locked away, and physically give that to someone. You don't even really need an internet connection. If you just had, like 100 pieces of paper that each had the key to, 1/100th of a Bitcoin, then that's like, $5 you can be tossing around, right?
Right.
And, so there's borders don't affect it. And that's one of the great things about it, because it costs like a fraction of a cent to make an exchange, right?
You were giving an example of a family that was sending money.
Well, not an example of a specific family, but it's definitely something that's being done.
Yeah.
Is people can send money to anywhere, in, like as Ben was just saying, anywhere in the world, over a few minutes or like 10 minutes, and avoid the international remittance fees or the exchange fees. You went to the States just recently, and the exchange rate between Canada and the States dollar.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's
Bananas.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, I don't know I think it's like 67 or something right now.
Well, I'll
Either
give
way, it
exact
was-
numbers.
It's not as low as it's ever been in my life.
To buy $300 was 447 Canadian.
So about $450, which is a 50% markup, but that was also including the bank fees.
The fees, right, which you would eliminate if you were able to send money.
Exactly. But then,
or
like,
tra-
thinking about it, I when I went down there, I purposefully spent as frugally as I can, or as frugally as I possibly could have, but then also knowing that even if I did not spend a single dollar there, coming back and having my money turned back into Canadian dollars, they still would have taken out another fee.
so in all it was probably about $30 that total that they would have extracted through fees.
I haven't had it switched back yet, but it's going to be $40 or something like that. I think it was like
that's
20
brutal.
bucks for
That's
So
when I
yeah,
first
if
went.
there were Bitcoin ATMs around, as opposed to last year, I was listening to a podcast about a lady who some hacker got onto her computer and locked all of her files and then held her hostage for them, saying that she had to pay a couple of Bitcoins or all her files would be deleted. And there was work stuff on there and stuff. So
sounds like a hot date.
yeah, so she had to travel to New York, and there's one Bitcoin ATM on the second floor of this little office building in the middle of nowhere, and you have to wait in line for it, and literally just one of them, and that was the only way that she could pay this guy back, because she didn't have her money online in any other fashion and
Wow.
stuff. So if there was an ATM in Pennsylvania, then you could have just gone straight to the Bitcoin ATM and taken your money out without any exchange at all,
Right.
and just taken it out in the money of the land.
And I don't know what things are like in Pennsylvania as far as Bitcoin infrastructure goes, but even here in Calgary, it's very limited what you can use in city.
Right.
I think the Sandman hotels in Calgary all take them.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
when
cool.
I can't remember which site it was, but I was on CoinDesk. The first thing I did when I went into Bitcoin was, okay, what can I actually
Where
use
can
this?
Yeah.
And there's been some interesting things, the website Newegg takes it, which is great because that's all computer hardware.
Yep.
And then also there's this site called purse.com, which basically you plug in an Amazon wish list and someone will buy it for you, but you get to pay. You get to spend
Oh
Bitcoins.
yeah, these Amazon wish lists.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
They're
not.
interesting.
Yeah.
I know different sites have them, but
If people really like what you're doing, you're like, I really want this super expensive Coach purse.
Yeah, please buy this for me, and
Please
I'll
buy
give you
this for me.
Bitcoins. Yeah, and I'll give you Bitcoins for it, and
Yeah.
it really works.
So, okay, for the example of, let's say you want to book a hotel at the Sandman. Would you spend your Bitcoin on it? Like right now today, if you had to book a hotel tonight, would it be worth you spending Bitcoin on a hotel room, or would you just use your regular money?
Right now, I would use Bitcoin just for the sake of I want to promote this as something that people are interested in. And that's what a lot of merchants and vendors are going to look for is who's actually using this and is this
Right.
actually going to be worth my time to implement.
Yeah.
As far as like, is it actually worth a consumer to actually go through all the effort or worth the consumer's time to go through all the effort to get a Bitcoin wallet, get their money into it, and then find a place that can actually use it? Yes, actually, that site, purse.com, it actually will save you between 8 and 20% on your Amazon wish list just because there's none of those fees that go to
Right.
Visa or any other place.
Because it does seem slightly a little bit of a pain in the ass to keep, like, you've got your money in Canada, you got Canadian money, to constantly just be trading Canadian money for Bitcoins and then using Bitcoins in Canada. So it's a little redundant, but
I guess
Well,
the only
like if
thing.
you're, oh sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
that's okay. I guess the only thing that I'm having a hard time comprehending, it's like, okay, I see that one Bitcoin is worth, what is it, $508.
$541. It's gone up $1.72.
Yes.
Oh, you're looking at that one. I'm looking at different. $541.72 Canadian dollars. I see that's one Bitcoin. It still doesn't really put it into perspective for me unless I see like a price tag of something that I know like what in my mind it should cost. Like say
Right.
this microphone, the whole thing, whatever, cost $100 Canadian.
Okay, well, 1/100th of a Bitcoin would be 541.
Yeah.
So, you know, like,
Yeah.
so for, you know, 2/100ths of a Bitcoin is a
Yeah.
movie.
Well,
or a
it,
pack
it
of
would,
smokes.
it would come down to approaching something, and if it had a price tag in either Canadian dollars or Bitcoin, you just have to do a quick calculation to see, is it cheaper for me to use my Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well,
So the point is to save you money though. Is
well, it's to
Kind
get
of.
away from, you
It's
know,
to get away
like,
from things like the Federal Reserve.
yeah,
Right,
like
okay.
if you were in Greece 3 years ago and were smart enough to put all your money into Bitcoin, you would not have been affected by the bank collapse nearly as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Because,
Actually,
you know, like
Andreas was-
when banks go bankrupt, you know, shit gets a little wild, right?
yeah.
I can remember Andreas talking a little bit about that when Greece actually experienced its bank freeze or momentarily restriction on the amount of money each Greek citizen could withdraw on a or a monthly basis or a bi-weekly basis. It was something like that. If you planned ahead and had your money in Bitcoin, no one could restrict you from taking it out as you please. And Bitcoin gives a tremendous amount of freedom to people.
Well, yeah,
So
and if you're like an international hotel chain, like if you're the Sandman and you have hotels in
all over
multiple
the
different
world.
countries, then you can make life a lot easier for people who happen to be in like 4 different countries regularly, and they'd never have to worry about exchanging their money between currencies. You know, like if you fly on business and your business hotel takes Bitcoin, then you never have to lose money on exchanges
Right,
ever.
So technically, I mean, aside
Speedy
from
is taking it.
aside
That's
from
big.
what Europe did with trying to do it with the euro, right? This is actually probably the first currency in history to literally try to be the world universal currency. That's its whole point, right? Is to be not only away from the control of the obviously corrupt Federal Reserves, but to be the first currency that has no borders.
Right, exactly.
0 borders.
And that's where it's finding its first footing is in developing worlds to send money overseas to families that need
That's
it.
the advantage that it has over anything in this world currency-wise. What are you doing?
Well, sorry, you're not coming up very loud.
I'm
Ben's coming up the loudest actually.
yeah. Well, I'm close to my
Surprise.
microphone.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I tried to do it stealthily.
Yeah, it's okay. I shouldn't have acknowledged it. Back to what we were saying, which I totally forgot. Well, we were
Wasn't
talking
there
about
a-
world.
Wasn't
currency.
there a movement going around a while ago talking about the Amero? It was supposed to be a North American,
Oh, yeah.
like between Mexico and the United States and Canada, just a universal dollar
Yeah.
for all 3 of us. The hell ever happened to that?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You ever
it kind
heard
of,
that?
just
must have been
petered
pretty-
out. It was one of those things, like, it's come up a few times in my lifetime. Like, every 5 or 10 years, it's just one of those stories that comes
And then there
back.
was another one that was only supposed to be like the western side of North America, and the eastern side, I guess, can just go fuck themselves.
Yeah, like, I know you've wanted to separate forever Quebec, but we're kicking you out this time. You don't want our Energy East pipeline? Get out.
Get the fuck out. All right. Let's talk about the Silk Road. because
Okay.
one of the things that probably popularized Bitcoin in media and in most people's lives was how many people were using it to buy drugs and guns on the Silk Road, which, I don't know, I'm sure most people know what the Silk Road is. It was a
Darknet.
a darknet using like a Tor browser or whatever is an untraceable, completely encrypted web service.
Yeah, there's a set of websites that you cannot get through Google or general search browsers. You need to use the Tor network.
I think people know that, right?
A lot of people do.
Some
but
people don't.
Actually, we should
We generalize here.
Yeah.
It's the only place you can find naked pictures of me.
That's not true.
That's not true. I have a cell phone ban.
Great minds
You're
think
not putting
alike.
those pictures online, right? Do you have the Tor app?
Anyway, I guess Bitcoin got really.
You guys owe me Bitcoin, yeah.
Bitcoin got a lot of press,
Uh,
a lot of bad press for the fact that it was very convenient for people in those situations to use it untraceably and to buy very illegal things.
That has been a lot of the big concerns initially when Bitcoin came out, because it offers the freedom, the anonymity. It opens the door for illegal black market trading, money laundering.
It's like internet
tax
cash,
evasion.
right?
Yeah.
Like, but plenty of people use Canadian dollars and American dollars and yen to commit crimes too. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean
Yep.
that money is bad. Like, people do bad things with money. That's,
People are bad. They will use whatever money they can find to do the bad thing.
And actually, there was a podcast I listened to recently. I forget who said it and who they were interviewing. I think it was The End of Money as We Know It documentary. Is a guy from that. He said that the number one currency used for illicit activities is the U.S. dollar.
Of course, yeah.
So, compared
Yeah.
to that, Bitcoin is not an issue.
Yeah.
But as far as early adopters go, the first people that are going to be into new things, because there's going to be minimal regulation, are always going to be
Oh, of course.
the criminals.
One question. When it comes to like the birth of Bitcoin, this is something I don't think I've ever asked you or ever heard from anyone else. The system was created, the ball was set rolling downhill. Who had the first coins, and what did they do? Like, where did it start? What was it like in the first month or two?
Well,
of
it was some
Bitcoin
programmer
existing?
who was, like, hiding his identity, right? It was
A programmer or a group. Satoshi Nakamoto
Satoshi
is
Nakamoto,
the
right.
pseudonym,
Yeah.
but no one knows if it's a guy, a girl, a group of people, where they
Or
are.
if they're even Japanese.
Yeah.
Well, probably not.
Which brings me to my next question.
Because it was a
actually.
pizza in North America, right? The first transaction.
Yeah, and
so
that was
it seems like it was.
months after.
Yeah, it was probably like, a group from MIT or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, someone's graduate project and then they just like,
just a
kinda,
good idea, like Mark
yeah.
Zuckerberg with Facebook.
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
How the hell
happens
do
to-
you sell a complete stranger in a pizza shop on like, hey, I have this
Right.
completely untraceable amount of money that doesn't exist that I will
Totally
use to
anonymous.
buy your pizza?
Because if it has value, if there's like 100 people online and they're trading, whatever, they're trading like Pokemon cards. If they're willing to pay a certain amount for that Pokemon card,
Yeah.
then that Pokemon
That
card
sets the
has that
value.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you show someone, look, people are willing to pay 10 cents for these Bitcoins, so I'll give you 10,000 Bitcoins. That's like giving you $100 for this
I would
pizza.
love to be there for that conversation.
Shout out to the first person that was brave enough to embrace the system, because it has been a exponential trickling of that courage, one after another, that has created what we see on the screen right now. This literally,
All because
this
of a
market
slice of
is
pizza.
refreshing like
Yes.
multiple times a second. There's so many transactions. There's so many variables going on. This incredibly dynamic cryptocurrency that is only here because people showed support in the beginning. And some people are lucky enough to have their ideas. The flame is fanned and people go with it. So shout out to the guy who fucking accepted Bitcoin for the
It's
pizza.
interesting to see something like this take off. Like, why is it that some ideas tend to flourish while other ones, like, while they might be good ideas, just tend to fizzle out and not end up being anything? What was it when we were talking with Dave?
stickiness,
It's a part
they
of
call
the.
it, right?
It was a part of the podcast that unfortunately I don't think went through. But when we were talking about the three things that make an idea or
That's true.
something successful, what was it? Timing, place, and
and the product.
the product
Right? It's like, do you have the right thing at the right time in the
in
right
the right
place?
place. Yeah.
As far as those 3 points are concerned, the timing was perfect, because I believe this was posted. Satoshi posted his white paper, which I just read the other day, and it was very hard to follow.
What year
it was
was it?
computer
2008.
Yeah.
2008.
It was I had to do a lot of vocabulary research because there's a lot of computer science terminology. Yeah, but I read that paper. I thought it was great. It came out in 2008, so if you remember, that was when the first housing crisis started to unfold, or the first stages of that. So the timing was great, the product was great, and the fact that it's open source lets everybody else kind of evaluate the product, and everybody knows what the code is at any given time.
Right.
Which kind of goes back to the monopoly aspect of all of, the Bitcoin miners is, as long as people know what the code is that those people are using, if they're using code that everybody knows is favoring them, people are just going to abandon Bitcoin, and they undermine themselves by taking advantage of that. And so even if the miners paid the developers of Bitcoin Core to kind of favor them in this, people would start to notice, and it just wouldn't go forward. In fact, another altcoin would probably be developed saying, hey, we're not going to implement these changes, and here's a new piece of software.
Right, but that kind of destroys the market, though. So, like, the fact that there are, 6 or 7 major and, over a couple dozen different competitors for Bitcoin, it really, waters down the whole idea because, transferring your Bitcoins over to, whatever the other ones are.
There's hundreds now.
Right, so that you're not guaranteeing a transfer of value necessarily,
So which is exactly why they won't do it. They won't destroy their own market in something that they've invested thousands and millions of dollars.
Are you saying that there's competition for Bitcoin in the sense that there's other currencies?
Yeah, there's other very similar currencies that work very similar ways, similar programs.
Interesting,
and
because
everything.
I
So
I don't know if I've
it
heard
kind of
of them
waters down the
because
idea for
One's
me.
called Litecoin. There's a couple others. I'm not familiar with all of them.
they haven't hit the same
They're pretty
straight-on
popular and
media
stuff, and
pressure.
lots of people trade back and forth between them.
Was Bitcoin
on a
the
minute.
first, though?
I think
Yeah.
Well, the cryptocurrencies were invented in the 80s, but they were never really implemented. I don't think the tech was really
the system
there.
wasn't there, the foundation.
No.
Yeah, they were there at the very early days of the internet, theoretically, anyways.
No, the problem with it at the time was something called the double spend problem, which is what
right.
Satoshi overcame, and that's that since it's digital, everybody knows that you can copy and paste a movie, music. There's a huge
He spilled.
Sorry,
Funny.
I just spilled beer on me.
Go on.
Actually, on the dog sitting beneath me too.
I know she likes booze.
Cool.
Don't tell me that. Sometimes I need a drinking buddy and nobody else is home.
Sorry, train director.
Yeah, I lost him.
Satoshi overcame the double
spend.
spending.
Oh yeah, it's basically because you can copy anything digitally, even if you have a completely unique Bitcoin. If you duplicate it and send it to 2 people at once, how do you decide which is the real transaction? And the way Bitcoin kind of does that is because both of those transactions would go to different nodes on the network that are working on those algorithms we discussed earlier. And those algorithms are being worked on by different computers that have different processing power. The one that's validated first gets recognized, and as it gets farther and farther ahead in that chain, that's the one that's recognized the most, and the other one just says, oh wait, this is the same coin, something went wrong here, and let's ignore that.
See, that doesn't make. I would think that it would make more sense for if you purposefully send the same Bitcoin at the same time to 2 different people. Fuck you, that Bitcoin is null and void. You're trying to screw us.
Well, it's not like you can destroy the currency. There will always be the 21 million.
Well, then just, I don't know, rehide it
So
or something for somebody else to mine.
that brings
sure,
up
it's
the-
not as simple.
That brings up the question of if
bury it in
if
a
your
math
computer
problem
burns
somewhere.
and you don't recover your Bitcoin, what happens to those Bitcoin? Is anybody able to access them?
They're still in the record. They're still stored on the ledger. I'm not too sure if that'll become a problem in the future of just Bitcoins that haven't moved. And they'll probably address that when it gets to a point where someone recognizes that there's a certain percentage of the coins that have been mined already that just aren't being used because
Yeah.
Well, they thought it was like half of the Bitcoins that were mined in the first year or two were basically just lost or forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
So there was a guy who remembered he had 900 Bitcoins on his computer and was like, wait, so Bitcoins are worth $500? Does that mean I'm rich now? I got student loans. This could be really useful.
Oh, I remember that. He was
Yeah.
only 17 years old or something, right?
Yeah,
17 or 18
and
years
and then so people were out, with like metal detectors
Yeah,
and
because it was in the dump.
looking for his computer
Yeah,
at the dump.
he threw the-
Like,
that was
because
one
if
of
they
the
could get
questions.
his hard drive, then
was-
it was worth $500,000 or whatever.
Yeah, no,
I
it was
remember
over
that, yeah.
$1 million.
Yeah.
I think I remember them advertising that it was worth over $1 million.
Because I thought he had 900 bitcoins, and I don't think they were ever at like $1,100 each.
It might just be what I put in my head, but I
Yeah.
thought I remembered. I remember the news article was like claiming that he was a millionaire because of this Bitcoin that was
Yeah.
lost in the
I think
dump.
it was $900,000. They just
Yeah,
brought it up
okay.
on the podcast I was listening to. I think it was
So
900,000.
then if, like, let's say something crazy were to happen to the internet, if you have all of your Bitcoin stored, say, on a hard drive and everything else is just fucked and it gets wiped, this hard drive, well, I guess that would really come down to a matter of whether or not they can get the internet back online. That would determine whether or not they're still valuable.
It's a network. Like, it would have to be a global catastrophe.
Yeah.
Right? And a global catastrophe would still fuck all my money right now
That's true.
because I don't have cash under my bed. And if I had cash under my bed, that cash would be worthless in a global catastrophe too.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
True.
like
You need your gold and your silver, boys.
I need like
Well, even that would be
pure
useless.
water.
Food
like,
and water.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be real. In a Mad
Basic
Max
bartering.
post-apocalyptic situation, a brick of gold isn't going to do shit. It might be a
It's
good.
shiny.
It might be a good thing to beat someone over the head with if you need to, but nope. Like,
Well, no, see, you grind it up into powder and then put it into the atmosphere to prevent global warming, so you can go back to the nice green world. If you start reading up on Nibiru, you'll find that the ancient Sumerians believed that that's why they were enslaved, was in order to put gold into the atmosphere.
Right. I forgot. Yeah, no, I had completely forgotten.
Gold is totally valuable, guys. That's why the aliens enslaved
reptiles
us.
just don't want it
We're
all.
genetically bred to be gold miners. Like, we like it. It's shiny.
No, like I said, we're by the AI that we are about to birth, we are almost being genetically born to mine Bitcoin.
right?
Well, that's like the argument of artificial intelligence and the singularity in the first place.
Yep.
It's just artificial intelligence is striving in itself to be born and taking whatever steps it needs to have humanity create it.
It wants to happen. Like, there's a lot of inertia.
Yeah.
But, like, I've been doing a little bit of research on AI recently, and there's really nobody in the world who's, like, trying to make a consciousness. Like, the AI they're working on is, like, how to solve programming issues
To be
faster and
fair-
stuff like
Nobody
that.
wants to.
Nobody's trying to make a robotic person.
To be fair, when it comes to the classified science, there's probably somebody that's working on it, but in a field of classified where, of course, they're not going to make that public.
Miniverse.
I mean, well, Singularity University, right? Do you know that?
Oh, yeah. I have heard of
Singularity
that, yeah.
University exists. It's a university that's trying to attract really genius individuals and put them to work on trying to solve problems that haven't, or find solutions for problems that haven't even arisen yet, because we're at such an exponential rate of growth and technology that by the time that we meet a problem within society,
The
we
plot
have
of
to
some
scramble.
movie, right? Like, they're like the bad guys in some movie, like the people who are like solve problems that haven't happened yet. And
I
like,
don't know, but it sounds like a movie I want to watch.
yeah, I can't remember what it is, but they're like the supervillains in a spy movie.
Huh.
And like, because they are changing the world.
If
and
anybody knows the name of this movie, just hit up our website,
Oh yeah,
genesaproject.com.
text in now.
and
The
leave
phone
in-
lines
No,
are open.
No, we have our feedback box. You can just go to the feedback box and let us know what the hell that movie
Yeah,
is.
I'm just gonna reach out and say we have had some feedback from people listening to the podcast. Anybody listening to this podcast, even if it's just like hi, you should totally just like go to the website,
Even if
throw
they're
something
high?
into the feedback. We just want to. No, what?
What did you say?
I said even if it's just hi,
Oh.
throw something into the feedback
That's
box.
not what I heard either.
Oh, okay.
Like, even if you're
heard what he
high,
said.
remember to do that.
Whether you're sober or completely fucked out of your tree, just please give us some feedback. It'd be super sweet to know what people think.
If we said something that was complete bullshit and you know it.
Well, we definitely plan to say a lot of bullshit, so that's yeah,
Unavoidable.
unavoidable. But okay, we talked about risk.
I would like to, while we're on the AI tangent, I just have a thought on this. Is while there's a lot of people that are working on how to develop an AI as just a piece of computer software, looking at the way the internet's developing and interconnecting, and I think it's just going to spring up naturally. And we won't actually know it. We'll continue trying to create an artificial intelligence, but it kind of in the same way our cells come together and just make us and our intelligence.
the internet is the primordial ooze of
say that one more
AI.
time.
literally giving birth
Just
to
like
new life.
life was born from like a swamp and a little bit of electrical energy or heat or whatever, AI is just going to be some random bit of code that's kind of
haven't you
slowly
read the
evolved.
book?
It's the Ghost in the Machine,
The
right?
Holy Bible. It explains it all.
It's the Ghost in the Machine, like really, and that seems very likely as a
The
way
Holy
that
Ghost
AI,
in the machine.
Praise him.
the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost in the Machine. Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's a good one. That was a great book.
That's a good title for a mix.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that I wanted to touch on was one of the first. No, well, I guess not one of the first things. One of the things that I heard recently. I can't remember where I heard it. I don't know if it was on that.
Source amnesia. It's a thing.
Yeah, totally. Whatever. We'll move past it.
That's how people are able to lie on the internet so easily.
Oh yes.
It's because like it doesn't matter where you heard it. You just know that you read it. And it doesn't matter even if you thought it was a lie when you read it. It'll just work its way into your, into your
Yeah,
conversations.
It's that stickiness of ideas, the timing, the place. And
Right, it's
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell's idea. I love the idea of stickiness, like that trends are made by tastemakers. I don't completely agree, but he thinks there's like 5% of the population, and they're the ones who just inadvertently decide
Okay.
what happens.
Okay, so
like the
here's
first
the
person
thing.
who wore
The
Chuck
man
Taylors
bun.
in school.
No. Before the man bun came around, this is a different tangent, forgive me, but before
Yeah,
the
thanks,
man
guys.
bun came
there
around.
was dreads.
No, before the man bun came around, I did not see a single person, whether it was through the media or people that I knew, who actually wore, as a male, their hair in a bun. I started seeing
ever seen,
pictures
like,
on
a
the
samurai
internet
movie?
of different articles saying this is the new thing for 2010 or whatever year it was that the man bun became a thing. Then all of a sudden, dudes started doing the man bun. Now, I haven't seen any guys doing this, but now it's the man braid.
Yeah, it's like a
I
bun
have
with a
not
braid wrapped
seen
around it.
anybody with
I don't
the
know if
man
that's a
braid.
troll or not.
No, but that's the thing. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. Like, there's like the certain 5% of people sitting behind a computer being like, yeah, this is going to be the new thing. And then the more that it gets forwarded through social media, the more people are like, yeah, I could totally do that
you're
with my
creating
hair.
it.
Yeah, they did the same thing with like butt chugging and like tampons soaked in vodka. Like they
Eyeballing shots.
Yeah, like Fox News is like, it's an epidemic. Like, it was mentioned twice on social media, so
Yeah.
obviously everybody's doing it. And then everyone's like, wait, you can get drunk by soaking vodka tampons? Like, and like, it's artificially created.
That sounds like a seizure waiting to happen.
Well, that was an interesting tangent. To dial back what I was trying to start, I was trying to start my next
If you
question.
use bitcoins, nobody's gonna know what like I'm
you
buying
soak tampons in vodka?
Yeah.
Okay, round 3.
Fight.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up was a concept that was introduced to me. Essentially, if you've ever seen the Zeitgeist movies, you know that like the Federal Reserve is just big. They're pushing the concept of how fake the money is and how much you're being screwed, and they're making money off of nothing and it'll never be paid back. Cryptocurrency, things like Bitcoin, were introduced to negate that concept and bring it back into the people's hands. Let me finish my tangent. Is to essentially step away from the Federal Reserve having control. And then I think it was somebody in conversation that exposed me to the concept. He was, or whoever it was scared. Is like, no, don't trust Bitcoin, because what if all they're trying to do, the Federal Reserve, is trying to get you to, to abandon the banks, to walk away from them, which sounds like a really good idea, to leave that corrupt system behind and get into Bitcoin. Well, what if the Federal Reserve is the one that started and controls Bitcoin, and you've just walked away from all your money, and then they just flip the switch and pull the plug, and then they have everything?
I think while that can be a concern for a lot of people that don't.
Well,
quite
if one person stole all the bitcoins, they'd be worthless.
yeah, that's the thing too. It's undermining its own value because it is a
No,
speculative.
of course, the Bitcoin would be useless and they would throw it in the garbage, but then they would hold all of the paper money. They would have all of everybody's assets because the people abandon all of the assets for Bitcoin.
Well, then all that paper money is useless too.
Well, but that's when all the missiles launch anyway, so...
Nuclear winter.
Save us, Skynet. We love you.
Basically, the question that I wanted to raise with that was, how do we know that that's not the case? Because I know that there was I think that...
Because it is open source. So
That's what I was gonna say.
Like anybody, you can look at the code and see like trace every single action that code takes, and people who spend their lives doing that kind of thing all seem to think that it's on the level. So
And there are a lot of people that spend their lives doing this for free. The Linux community is an example of that. There's a lot of open source projects that are just people volunteering their time just because they love it. And that's the thing. Because they love it, they're going to fact check it to hell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the world we live in right now, is that whether you say something stupid on Twitter or you friggin' create a cryptocurrency, people are going to literally pick it to pieces and expose
Not
you for the
enough yet.
monster you are, if that's the case.
Not enough yet.
yeah, I can't let it go though. But I'm happy. I'm a beacon of light in a dark Facebook. Like,
Well, and that's the thing though. You still see so many people sharing these articles that have absolutely no factual basis, complete trolls, just not even like. God, I'm trying to think of the most recent one that I've seen. Like they're all over the place, and you know,
NDP
websites-
are horrible evil devils that are responsible for the oil
Well,
crisis.
not even that. I'm talking about like, for example, the picture of that dog with the ham on its face. It's like this dog was horribly burned,
well,
and
like
it's just like
that girl's
stupid.
picture got shared like 100 million times.
But,
It was
like-
like a little girl with the bologna on her
Yeah,
face.
that too. Like just stupid things that people just don't bother to fact check before they share it. It's like, oh, this is a horrible thing. Click.
You posted something from 2014
I
recently.
actually did, and you know what? Usually I'm actually
Calling her out live on the radio.
usually I'm pretty good at fact checking before I post. And as soon as somebody called me out on it, it was like, oh, sweet, you're right. I will take some humility and admit
Even
the fact
something
that,
as
yes, I fucked
simple,
up.
even something as simple lately I saw, or for the past 3 years, I think it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, where it snowed in Egypt on the Great Pyramids.
I made a
And
mistake on that too and posted.
It seems to be everybody shares it
Happens
every
like every
winter.
year.
It's like, oh my god, it snowed on the pyramids, and it's like that picture you shared has a date of 2014 or 2013, and like every single year they say it hasn't snowed in 112 years. Or whatever. It was like, shouldn't it be like it hasn't snowed in 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, and like the picture of the Sphinx with the snow on it, it's from like a replica Sphinx that in like a different part of the world. Like it's not the real Sphinx.
Or
like,
is it though? And that's the tricky thing about the internet.
Well,
like
no, because
you're not
it
there.
snowed there, but the snow melted the instant it hit the ground. It was like a 15-minute thing, like
the
a freak
thing
flurry.
is, were you physically
Were
there?
you there? Right. I mean, the Earth could be flat.
I was
'cause
just
you've
gonna
never
say.
really been in orbit. You've never really been in orbit.
It's true.
There's a hole in the North Pole, everybody.
Magically teleports you
Let's
to the other
save that
side.
for an entire podcast of its own. No, actually, this is probably a good one.
It's fucking
This is
bullshit.
probably a good time to talk about the
Well,
Earth
like
being flat.
you and I just agreed at each other for like half an hour and be like, isn't this stupid? Man, this flat Earth thing
It's
is
not
stupid.
even an argument.
Like,
You're just like your voices are raised, but it's passionately in agreement with
Yeah.
each other.
Actually, here I'm gonna pull up an image because, like, we could just we've talked a lot about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We can go back to it, but I want to bring
how
up an
far
image.
anyway? Because that was
think
a
we're
lot
about an
about
hour.
that was a lot about Bitcoin.
10 minutes from an hour, I think.
I feel like it could keep going.
Oh, I know.
Well, we can.
No, we're on no time limit. We're just hanging out.
I want to bring up a picture because there was this. Here, hold on. There's this photo of like this is what the flat Earth would look like. It's kind of like a circular
So
disc.
there's a big movement going on. A lot of people online seem to think that the Earth is flat
And it's
because
gained a
lots
lot
of
of
people just
momentum.
like to disagree with you.
Yeah.
Like they're just contrarians. If the system says it's true, then they automatically think it's a lie. Like if everybody agrees on it, that is a sign of how bad it is.
Okay, I'd like to bring to attention for the YouTube viewers. This is one of the renditions of the flat Earth theory. What we're looking at is essentially a square slate with a sphere, kind of like it. Essentially, looks like a roulette wheel.
But it's so bullshit because that's not the shape of what like countries actually are.
No.
Like Canada's much narrower than that. It's only shaped that way because we have to like flatten it to put it on a flat map.
Yeah. Okay. So like this is. It looks like a roulette wheel. They consider all the oceans to just kind of sit in this little concave little divot.
like
But-
where the numbers are on the wheel that the ball would fall in. That's
Exactly,
Where that's
but
where the
what I
oceans
would
lie.
like to
And
bring
Australia.
to attention here, is the fact that if you're watching this, if you're standing in North America here, you would. I don't know if you've ever played Halo, but you would literally see all of this.
Oh, yeah.
You could just look up. And there would be no horizon. You would literally just see land
How
curving
badass
up
would that
into
be?
the sky until it meets this crisp line of where this ice wall is. And this is Wait, okay, this is the map of the square and stationary Earth by Professor Orlando Ferguson, PH Dickhead, Hot Springs, South Dakota.
Hey, now he's a very educated man, and he worked hard to get that PhD.
Whatever I don't know. This just...
Ooh, you can send 25 cents to the author for a book explaining the square and stationary Earth.
How much is that in Bitcoin?
Oh, a millionth? A thousandth?
Well, anyway, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
closer
bring
to
this
a
image
million.
up because
Like,
It'll change tomorrow.
it seems that this image has been shared a bunch lately with a lot of the articles that have been going around. But literally, I just can't believe that people can't look at that image and realize that you would see this other continent just curving up into the sky if it were like
Is there
that.
a year on this image, Tanner? Like
well,
somewhere
the
physically on the
movement
image
like
when
started
it was
again in like the 1890s when this guy wrote a book. Not
Actually,
this guy.
if you do go back, there was something on the side of that image.
There has to be, because it looks pretty old.
Well, yeah, 'cause-
Professor Orlando Ferguson, that
That's
is
the
not a
dude.
modern man.
No, that is a drawing. That is
I think
not
it
a
was
picture.
18.
No, I know, but if
93
it's
was
a
the
drawing to
date.
look...
1893 was when the book came out.
Do we have a year down here? Either way,
There's a lot on the internet that you have to be cautious of.
Yeah, I think the reason
What?
I think the reason that it's bounced back in social media is in the past couple days is
There
because
it is,
apparently
1893.
1893.
there was a rapper just recently. The guy, I guess, they were talking about on the Stanhope podcast, Rogan and Jamie. It's the rapper, the artist that did that like airplanes in the night sky, that track with
Nicki
what's her name?
Minaj?
That's Paramore. Well, the chick is Paramore.
Yeah, so the girl was it was Paramore, and then I guess this guy B.O.B. or whatever.
B.O.B.
Oh, yeah,
that's
B.O.B.,
the
yeah.
one.
So he is spouting off like crazy about how the flat Earth theory is real, and I guess Neil deGrasse Tyson shut him down fucking hard.
That was the first link that came up.
Right, but he still
Look at that
he won't
face.
take it. Yeah. Shout out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Actually, shout out to his podcast as well, Star Talk Radio. You guys should check that out. Neil deGrasse Tyson and a couple comedians and Bill Nye. They have an awesome podcast. It's
Bill Nye's on there?
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's so good.
Bill Nye usually comes in at the end to chime in kind of for his little 10-minute section or 5-minute section, but there's a lot of them where Bill is the actual host, and sometimes they co-host, and it's amazing. Bill Nye, he sounds like he would be a riot to hang around
Oh, yeah.
with.
Yeah,
He's
Bill Nye seems
witty.
super cool, yeah.
He's so witty, and especially that thing that he did for Comedy Central just recently where he did that, like, did you see it?
No.
He did a Comedy Central skit where, like, basically he's mocking all of, like, New Age, kind of like, the universe is, like, telling me to do this, and I feel that the universe is pushing me in this direction. And basically at the end, he just starts, like, dropping F-bombs. Like, Bill Nye comes on, he's just like,
Oh my god.
fucking
Not my
absurd.
childhood hero.
I know. It's really good. He's really, like, down to earth. He's
He's done a good job of becoming like very relevant in a really good positive way, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just all for science education, right?
Well, first of all, the reason, like, our generation all knows him because of junior high and elementary school science class.
And now we have
Everybody in
money.
my
Grown
school
up.
knew that song.
We've grown up. Yeah, exactly. We
Bill,
still do.
Bill,
Don't lie.
Bill, Bill.
Nah, the science guy. But no, like we all grew up he grew up with us really, and now that he's gone away from doing Bill Nye the Science Guy, now that we've become more intelligent in our means of learning, we've rediscovered him in a new way and seen him now as more of a different kind of person to look up to, a different role model. We can relate to him more than we did when we were kids. Especially with that the debate
He's the
between
Carl
him
Sagan
and
of
Ken
our
Ham.
generation.
Exactly. Well, him and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah.
I would just like to read this aloud because it seems noteworthy. Modern flat Earth hypothesis originated with the English writer Samuel Rowbotham, 1816 to 1884. Based on his conclusions derived from the Bedford Level experiment, that would be interesting to look up, Rowbotham published a 16-page pamphlet, Zetetic Astronomy, which he later expanded into a 430-page book, Earth Not a Globe, in which the Earth is a flat disk centered at the North Pole and bounded along its southern edge by a wall of ice, Antarctica, with the Sun and Moon 3,000 miles and the cosmos 3,100 miles above Earth. He also published a leaflet entitled The Inconsistency of Modern Astronomy and Its Opposition to the Scriptures.
With two exclamation
I will note
marks.
that there is 2 exclamation marks at the end of that title, which argued that the Bible, alongside our senses, supported the idea that the earth was flat and immovable, and this essential truth should not be set aside for a system based solely on human conjecture.
Well, there's your first problem.
From personal experience, I had a time when I was...
Sorry.
From personal experience, I had a time that I have not duplicated since I was little, but I was on a snorkeling trip in Florida, and I fell asleep on the boat, and I woke up, and it was the weirdest sensation in the world where I sat up straight. I felt like I was upright, but the world looked like I was on the equator where it was 90 degrees over, and I could see the curve of the
Whoa.
Earth. And it took me a second to like kind of blink my eyes a while and like kind of snap out of it. And eventually I kind of reoriented myself. But I think waking up out of that state where the brain's still figuring out like up and down, left and right and all that, it told me, yeah, you're on the edge of the planet, bro.
Man, think of how Adrian Brody must have felt in the start of Predators. He's just like wakes up falling out of the sky.
You've brought that up on 2 podcasts in a row. Really?
has a
Did you
problem.
just watch that movie?
No, I haven't watched it in years, but I adore Predator.
I can't handle Arnold.
There's
The
no
whole
Arnold in
reason-
this one. Adrian
No.
Brody is Arnold. He has like a shirtless scene and everything.
Oh, and they actually pay homage to the first movie
Yeah.
where like Adrian Brody gets all like rips his shirt and he's like, "Kill me."
Yeah.
Are his pecs as big as his nose?
He's in pretty good shape.
He's in damn good shape in that movie.
Yeah. I think of him as like the little skinny kid from...
He's so skinny.
God, what was that weird movie where he had sex with the alien? Splice.
Oh, Splice.
Oh, that was such a weird one.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
I'd just like to let everybody know that was not just an alien. That was his daughter.
It was yeah.
He made it.
And no,
was-
it
But it
wasn't
didn't have his
also his
DNA.
son.
What father
Oh, yeah,
does
I guess
make
it
the
changed.
Spoiler alerts.
But I don't think it physically had his DNA. I think
They just raised it.
They just
right?
raised it, didn't
No,
they?
they used their DNA.
I have no
It was-
desire to watch that movie ever again.
If I remember
Pretty
right, they
soon.
had the baby, and in the womb, they kind of injected DNA during the process. But it's been a while.
I'm pretty sure she. I don't know. Yeah, we should watch that movie again.
I-
and mock it.
You
Yeah,
go
let's
ahead.
not.
You
Let's
go
watch
ahead.
Inglourious Bastards instead.
Yeah, we do need to do that. Okay, you guys continue the conversation here. I'm gonna
Okay, yeah, so
take this.
the
off
whole
the
thing
screen.
about the flat Earth is it's based on zetetic observation, like observational science. So what you can see, you can trust. But with any context, almost absolutely everything you see tells you that that is not true. Like, because we know there's not an ice wall at the edge of the wall because you can go to the South Pole and like take one step and cross the South Pole, take another step.
But you haven't physically been there.
Okay, and
I've
so
heard that there are military bases around that area.
okay, but
Yeah.
so like
They'll
On
get
the
blown to
internet, I heard this
smithereens.
thing.
okay, the one thing that I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was really happy with where I was able to go with it because, like, the only thing that sort of made sense for the flat Earth was that there's like a bending of space happening,
Right.
So that like the outer ring really takes up no space at all. But then, by definition, if it takes up no space, then it would be the same point. So it would
be a fucking wormhole.
Still-
It would be a sphere because it would be a point at the top and
Right.
a point at the bottom. So like if the outer ring is actually no space,
So if
then it is a sphere because
if
there's
that's
no
how they're
space there.
explaining it, then it literally debunks their theory.
Exactly.
instantly.
Right. So
But yeah, like the whole ice wall thing. If the
And,
Earth was flat, we could
like
just like
try
get
to convince me, somebody, like please,
Please.
Well,
give
read
me
the feedback.
something to stand on here. Like
There was a really cool art installation at Burning Man this year that
Yeah.
demonstrated the curvature of the Earth. They
Oh,
stuck
yeah.
spikes in the ground every like 50 feet in a line that spanned the entire like mountain to mountain in between like where the playa is. Like Burning Man is 2 miles wide, I think, the circle. And then I think the trash fence is 5 miles wide. And so it was probably about a 3 or 4 mile stretch of these poles.
Well,
but every
'cause
single pole had a light on them.
31 miles to the horizon, I think. There's 31 kilometers. 31 kilometers is the horizon on,
the
a,
visible
on a flat
horizon.
Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this
For,
art
you know,
installation,
an average height person, so 5'9"
at first we
or
thought
whatever.
it was just the trash fence that had been lit up with like strobes, little flashers, just so that you knew where it was. But it was actually this art installation that spanned right across. And if you went up to them, they were very like precision set to an exact altitude. So all the lights were at a very, very precise altitude. And so if you went right to one end and looked down the entire thing, you could actually see, every time it flashed, you could see the curvature of the Earth in the lights.
Even like flying in
That's
an airplane, you can see the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah.
I don't think these flat Earth theory people have ever traveled before.
No, and like, if they're if they would also want to like debunk the speed of light, then they would, you could shine a light at the landing point from the original moon landing, and it's a special reflector that shines back exactly the way the laser was pointed at it. So like if you're on Earth, wherever you are in the world, you can shine a laser at the specific spot of the moon, and it will shine straight back at you, and you can time it.
This is a real thing?
Oh yeah, real thing. So
There's a mirror on the moon?
Yeah, they did it in the Big Bang Theory.
It's a special reflector, and like it's just all these like prisms. So wherever you point a light at it, it always bounces straight back.
Yeah.
So you can test the distance to the moon by like timing how long it takes a laser to go one distance to another, and then bouncing it at the moon and back, and then you can get the exact distance of the moon.
What kind of laser would you need? Because I know
Yeah, holy
the
shit.
regular lasers, they seem to diffuse in diameter. They seem to widen as like the distance increases. So what kind of laser would you need to have a focal point that hits the moon?
You probably need to put like $5,000, $10,000 into it.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, but wow.
Not legally.
But how is that possible?
It's not a legal
You have
laser.
to
The
buy
moon
it
landing
with
was
Bitcoin
fake.
on the Silk Road.
Exactly.
That is exactly how we know it wasn't fake.
No, I know. I got into
The
one of these
footprints are
arguments
still
before.
there. Like, prove
Yeah.
me wrong.
I thought that you could
You
do it with a
haven't seen
pretty,
them.
like a decent, like hobby telescope, but apparently that's not true. You need a really serious telescope,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you can find
Oh,
the
yeah.
moon landing site. You can look at the moon landing site with. Actually, I think it was
And
only
they've
found
been
just
back
recently.
more than once. Like,
Yeah, they went back twice, right? And the third time they like played golf and shit. They brought golf
Yeah,
clubs.
they
One of,
brought
the, one
cute.
of the guys brought his luxury items as his set of golf clubs so he could golf on the moon.
Jeez.
I read an article once that I think it was Buzz Aldrin encountered somebody in a press conference that accused him directly of being part of the moon landing conspiracy, and he punched the dude out.
Oh, good for him.
no kidding.
Don't you dare denounce my life accomplishment.
No shit.
Yeah. Can you imagine how passionate and like how attached to his experience? He's literally been to another world, stepped foot on the moon,
Another
and somebody
moon.
coming up to you being like, "I know more than you, bitch." Like, your entire life's work. Well, I fucking saw a YouTube video, punk. It's. Oh, I can imagine.
Like,
I
also-
would probably
I
want to
surf
punch
the internet
someone.
regularly. That
If-
makes me a doctor.
If
Yes.
it didn't happen, I
Please
bet
open heart surgery.
we would have heard a lot from Russia over the past 50 years
Oh, yeah.
about how no, they actually didn't do it.
But we
did it. Like Russia would really have a big horse in that race, right? Like
Yeah, well, they haven't really been crushing Poland for the fact that Russia stole the rights to creating vodka. Apparently, Poland's the one that's actually responsible for it, but they just kind of made it look like Russia was the
Polsky.
one.
well, if you go by current borders, sure, but the,
Oh, yeah, okay,
the
I
people
guess.
that live there, were more Russian at the time. I think is like the argument most Russians have. Like the borders have changed a lot. Ancient Russia, like it was all Mongolia.
Yeah, that's
right?
something
Like,
that we have never dealt with in our entire lifetime. I don't think in our lifetime we've ever watched a country change its borders, other than none of it.
USSR.
I mean, we divided Canada a little
Yeah,
bit.
the USSR in our early lifetime. Like you're the
Yeah.
oldest here. You should remember more than anybody. You were like 5.
I was not keeping up to current Russian events. Not at all.
Actually,
cultured
though, very
swine.
recently we all saw Crimea get annexed during, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and Russia is trying to steal our North Pole too. Hey, but.
Is it ours?
Oh, well, we had the North Pole when I was a kid. It went to Russia. It's gone back and forth a few times.
I was
but,
under the assumption
like,
that it's just.
like 2 years ago, Russia planted a flag on the bottom of the ocean at the North Pole. They took a submarine there and planted a little Russian flag on the bottom of the North Pole. But the North Pole moves over 100 meters all the time. So
Yeah.
it's not actually at the North Pole.
Yeah,
So
it would
even
only
if
be
they
temporary.
if they claim it, it moves onto our side of the border all the time. Anyways,
I would. Well. Wouldn't you just be trying to
planet
claim
belongs
the
to
point
humanity,
of
everybody.
Yeah.
where all of the points of longitude come up? What's so important about having the magnetic pole?
because the magnetic pole is the point where all those places meet.
Well, no, but it keeps moving. It physically
Yeah,
keeps
magnetic
moving.
north.
I'm talking about on a global map where all of the points of longitude come up to 0. That it's not the magnetic North Pole, but that is the top center point of the globe.
The actual axis.
The actual axis pole.
Well, yeah,
I think that's true.
in
So
terms
that
of
would
like
make-
geography
the center of the Earth, you mean?
Yeah, not a pole,
the way
I
that
guess,
we've
but
mapped the Earth doesn't change. Like,
Yeah, like
latitude and longitude
there's a
lines-
point on the map that we've all agreed on.
Right.
You know, the international.
yeah.
Even though we know that the plates are shifting, even though that magnetic north seems to fucking run around
Oh,
like
well,
a dog off a leash.
the plates shifting would absolutely change the maps.
No, that would change the maps,
Well,
but it's still like when you have.
It wouldn't
when you
change
have
latitude or longitude.
When you, yeah, it
Right.
wouldn't change latitude or longitude. It's still a point of this many degrees this way, this many degrees this way. That gives you this point, no matter what's underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all split up evenly.
Well, I think the fight seemed to be symbolically, at least, over the magnetic North Pole, because you
Yeah,
know
'cause
there's not
Compass's
really
point there.
too much value in it. Like there's a couple of shipping routes and stuff, but that 1 inch square spot isn't really the most important thing in the world.
So
you know?
realistically, if the Russians were smart, they would see how much the North Pole moves over a couple year period of time, and place a whole circle of flags
yeah.
around it.
Well, like Russia should just like try to smoke and drink half as much for like 2 months and then just buy Canada. Like just save up, like just don't party quite so hard for a bit and then just like you can do what you want.
You know
Like,
what? We're getting sick of being the state's hat. We can be friends with Russia.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Let's just detonate some.
I would
nukes
rather
and
be
separate
Russia's
from the
shoes.
United States.
Russia's shoes.
Better Russia's shoes than America's hat. Yeah.
Oh man,
This is why I drink.
shit! I was gonna say something, but I obviously forgot. What should we go on to from here?
Well, actually, I had remembered something. You had briefly tied in the zeitgeist movement to Bitcoin, and your the buddy that you had talked to about his whole theory about the Federal Reserve or the IMF being the actual creators of it. It is very true that the zeitgeist movement I could kind of see the connection between them and Bitcoin because they kind of share the same goal. However, I'm a big advocate of the zeitgeist movement myself, but their whole philosophy is that nobody should have to actually earn the right to survive, and that the human needs are human rights. So why should anybody actually need money to buy food, water, shelter, and all that? That being said, they've been struggling for a long time to create a transition step, and I think Bitcoin actually does provide that point of transition where for the longest time, for the last few years, I've been anti-money, 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 and that is the evil of the world. There's no purpose for it. When I saw the first documentary that I watched, thanks to Scott, in December, I came up
remember
to
that
you two
day,
in the kitchen. I was like,
You
I'm
were-
crying, guys. This is like what I've been looking for.
What's that documentary called? In case people are wondering.
It was actually two. Scott linked one called The End of Money as We Know It, which I believe you have to pay for, which ironically I don't think you can pay for with Bitcoin. I only saw dollars. I know, it's a bit weird. And then the other one is The Bitcoin Gospel, which I thought was a very well put together documentary. It had people sampled from a different range, from a Bitcoin miner to other venture capitalists. It's even a guy that used to work on the Federal Reserve himself being interviewed. And it was a very good range of perspectives. It provided a very good spectrum of people that view Bitcoin as a very ideological hero, as kind of I do, in that it frees people from the Fed, from any type of monitoring. It frees the money supply from a central reserve currency. Just everything about it can be ideologically driven. To the business model is like, can I make money from this? Can I actually have a practical use for it? It was a very well put together 45-minute YouTube video.
Well, yeah, practicality is key, right? Because if it's not usable conveniently, it won't survive. Like most people aren't going to go very far out of their way to make Bitcoin work. Like they don't believe in the idea enough to make it worth any sort of hassle.
There needs to simultaneously be the interest to use it and the infrastructure to support it. As example, earlier yesterday, I went down to a cafe. We were talking about Bitcoin ATMs recently, and that there was one in New York that woman had to go to. There's a coffee shop here in Calgary called Waves, and apparently they have a Bitcoin ATM at every one of their locations.
Really? Everyone?
Well, that's what the guy said when I was on the phone. I only visited the one downtown on 17th Ave. But
There's one nearby here.
Waves.
Yeah. Waves is great. They make good coffee. You should go there.
It was a very good
Sponsored
place
by
to sit
Waves.
Waves, give me free shit.
And
Pay us in Bitcoin. We don't care.
well, and that's the thing though, is the way that you could pay in Bitcoin was very much a pain in the ass, in that they didn't have a setup where, like, actually, if I bring up my phone and I bring up my wallet here,
Yeah.
like this is my Coinbase wallet.
It's a QR code on his screen.
Yeah, I don't think the iPad picks
see
it up
that.
enough, but basically I have a method to like switch between scanning a QR code or presenting my own address as a QR code.
Yep.
And I can either send Bitcoins to that QR or receive to my own. And it would be as simple as like a tap feature on a credit card. I don't think the States has it, but most of the places in Canada have it, where you just take your credit card, tap it to the screen. There's no PIN, there's no nothing. It's just a split second and it's done. Bitcoin's that simple if the infrastructure's there. But like this coffee house, there's this ATM there where you go in, you take your wallet, you exchange it for Canadian dollars, and then you pay the coffee shop in Canadian dollars, and it's just...
Yeah, that seems a little redundant.
It is. And I understand the reason they have it that way right now is Bitcoin's volatility, and that you need to sell your coins to get the Canadian dollar so that you give the shop that Canadian dollar, because let's say they take that price, like whatever the price of Bitcoin is at the time, you give them that, and then by the end of the day, at closing time, let's say Bitcoin's fallen that $90 because somebody released a rage quit article slamming Bitcoin. And there have been multiple. Apparently there's a Bitcoin obituary website dedicated to people slamming Bitcoin. And
Jeez.
so you're that business saying, like, this person paid in Bitcoin, it was worth this much, but at the end of the day, it's like half of what it was actually. Or it could go just the other way as well, where it's worth like 50% more. That volatility has made vendors kind of operate in that way, where Bitcoin's only this weird middleman at the moment.
Right.
And that the sooner it stabilizes, the better. And actually, that's one of the big reasons why I invested in it now when Scott mentioned it, and when I found out about this price halving thing, because as it continues to halve, that supply steadies out. And as the interest and the infrastructure continues to develop, there's a lot going on as far as CoinDesk articles that have been coming out all month that I've been following up on. As far as regulation goes, the big concern is it going to be overregulated? Our government's going to be concerned about it. Is it going to be overregulated to the extent that people just see it as useless now? The IMF, there was an article said that, no, let's not. There's value here. People are being very gentle with it now. There's a lot of interest in startups and millions of dollars. So the supply is going to steady out. The interest is going up. So this has been projected to be one of the most productive years of Bitcoin.
You know, I foresee, like, bringing it back earlier to when we were talking about the possibility of regulation with Bitcoin. You know, if the banks see a way to make money off of it, it's just going to end up turning into this vicious cycle of like, okay, maybe the banks do end up making money off of Bitcoin, but then somebody else is going to come up with something different because the current system still isn't working and people are still upset with it. Like, it's just, if it does end up, falling to the hands of them, it's just going to turn into this thing.
Well, that's the beauty of the open source technology, is even if it does fall into their hands and then people leave, the value of that goes down dramatically, and because they've tried to take control of it, the interest in it is gone, and it's moved on to one of the altcoins. And they'll keep chasing that, and then the interest will keep running away from them, because that's one of the big attractions
The value is
of it.
in the support.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so if they were to try and grab hold of it, their fault would be being exposed.
I don't know, because I think
Right.
like if the banks did get involved, that would, like, more so than they already are, would help make it more mainstream. And if the banks were smart, they would have like half as much control as they do on regular currency, and make it a little bit more of like a a free international currency option that you can use at your local bank. So then everybody could do it, and then it would still be better than currently, but you could take it internationally and things like that, and transfer it person to person without high fees. But you could get charged interest because, like, the banks might have better security than the next level of hackers to come out than anything you can download for free. So you might want to pay 0.5% of your Bitcoins so that you could have the security of a bank, even online. Because,
And then we're getting
like-
right back into bank fees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, it's still, for there to be a reason for people to use banks on Bitcoin, they'd have to make it worth your while. So, if there's, if banks are smart, it would be a good business model to have, a toned down version of traditional banking that you could apply to cryptocurrencies. Like, that makes sense. And that's a step in the right direction. Although, I don't hate banks as much as most people do. Like, the large banks that, bankrupt countries, sure. But I think banks are pretty valuable. I think it's pretty nice that I can, not have to carry cash around all the time.
The fact that I can pull my phone out, I can take a picture of my check and deposit it.
That's
Right.
nuts,
That's
hey?
actually quite an incredible feature that they've
Right.
implemented. They're phasing out checks
Yeah.
altogether here
And,
soon.
also, I will probably want to buy a house someday without saving up $500,000. That'll be really nice for me to be able to do. Finances are really, really complicated. It's a whole world. I do not have a very good understanding of it.
They don't teach you that shit in school.
No,
Yeah,
of
they
all
do.
the things they teach you in school is
They teach you some things in life skills, like very, very, very basic budgeting, but not how to do your taxes, how to,
Really?
maintain
I
credit.
absolutely learned how to do my taxes in school.
Oh, I fucking didn't.
I didn't.
No way.
We did practice tax forms and everything. When you get a job, this is the form. This is what all these
I did
boxes
drop out of high
mean.
school though.
Okay, yeah. This is the post I just posted yesterday. Don't you ever get tired of people who don't read telling you what's not in books? No.
Sorry,
it's
let me rephrase that.
They're not controlling information. You don't read.
No, but to be fair, I have had this conversation with other people
Yeah.
who I did graduate high school. I dropped out twice and just kind of went to different schools,
Yeah.
and the whole life skills, subject, I did make that all the way through, but I never once filled out a tax form in practice, never learned how to balance a budget. Well, basically learned how to balance a budget, never learned how to maintain good credit, barely learned about credit cards at all. The core basis of what it means to be an adult and maintain financial responsibility, they gave you the very, 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 very slim of it.
But
They gave me, sorry.
Well, I would say the same as they maybe even gave me less because I remember making a resume in high school. but I
Yeah,
don't
that's what
remember
most of it was about for me too.
how to get a job and
Yeah.
not have to deal with anything else after that.
And lots of why drugs were bad.
Yes.
I didn't get a lot of that.
Yeah,
There was
that was
a
in life skills and comm class.
Yeah, there was a couple of school speakers who came, and it was mostly drunk driving horror stories.
Oh, we had to make what do you call them, the trifold
Yeah.
presentations. The teacher would give you a drug and you had to do an entire write-up and present in front of the class why this particular drug was bad. It was that and resumes pretty much.
I would have just brought 3 mirrors and then taken ecstasy and danced.
Yeah,
that would have been my
bring your own
presentation.
crack pipe and be like, so this is how you do it.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't think I really got
Half
a
the
lot
kids in the class are on Adderall anyways, so.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I got a lot of drug education in school either. I don't
Yeah, my
remember.
school-
I remember sex ed was...
There was quite a lot of
if
sex
anything's
ed.
lacking in school is that
What is drug or sex ed?
sex ed.
I had pretty good sex ed, starting in grade 6, I think, maybe grade 7.
I think sex ed, the core of it has changed over the years with all of this new stuff coming out about consent and that becoming a lot bigger of a thing and transgender issues and
Yeah, it was mine was
sexuality
how to
and-
not get pregnant or sick.
Yeah, that was the very basis
Yeah.
of it. Now I'm
Which is
I'm
a
fairly
good place to
certain-
start. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty good place to start, right?
But now I'm fairly certain that and I don't know if I'm correct about this. If there's parents out there that can let me know, I don't know. But I'm fairly certain that there are within the sex ed program a little bit more embracing homosexuality and transgenders and even in Alberta, everybody getting up in arms about the
Fucking bathrooms.
the bathrooms, the fact that transgender people can use the.
It's not a real thing. Was that a real
bathroom.
thing? Is it actually a real thing? Or is it just one article.
I think it was
I think
just
it's a real
yeah.
thing.
I think it was really overblown.
I think it's really overblown, but
I think
I'm still pretty sure
I think
it's
it was
a
just
real thing.
like rainbow parties on Fox News. Nobody's actually doing them, but
Yeah.
it was
really
just a talking point. I think.
I feel like a lot of the articles that are circulating are centering on one instance and making them look like they're a national problem. And
That's what the media does. That's exactly what the media does.
Mass
Well, that's
media.
how they make money.
Not
Yeah.
even just mass media, though. Even social media.
Well, there's like
The little tiny conspiracy articles that, seem a little bit too true to just be conspiracy. It's things
Yeah,
that get blown
it's-
out of proportion.
it's
They
really
make
tough.
you
There's
think. They keep you on your
there's
toes.
no source that I like actually trust.
Yep.
It's only when I can like put something between like 3 or 4 sources that I all kind
Yeah.
of trust. Like I know they're really not going to blatantly lie on purpose. Their
Yeah.
fact checking might just be kind of non-existent. So
I particularly enjoy I fucking love science.
I used
pretty
to.
good.
Then she sold it, and now it's just clickbait. Like
Yeah,
you
well,
can't.
there's- every so often they have an interesting article.
Yeah, but it's like everything used to be like this week in science.
Yeah.
Now
True, I
they
haven't
don't
seen
do
that
that.
in a while, I
yeah,
guess.
now it's like maybe this happens. Like they were sharing that thing about like octopuses being aliens. Like that was
Yeah.
a misquote that one guy said that
Oh,
like
I didn't see that one.
he was just like trying to explain. He was like, "Yeah, they're weird. I'm not saying they're aliens, but their DNA is pretty unique." And
Not
someone's like,
saying it's
"Their
aliens."
DNA is so unique. They could be aliens." Like, and it was all over Facebook. Like,
So Fox.
Why did you have to remind me that This Week in Science is gone now? Like that was part of the
Yeah.
coolest
That was-
allure
yeah.
of that Facebook page.
Yeah.
It's just a Facebook page, or it's just like a general, it's a blog.
it
right?
started as a page. It's a website and
Yeah, it's
stuff
a
too.
website,
Yeah.
right.
But didn't the
But
girl
there's multiple writers and stuff now.
didn't the lady who owned it, like, she would actually travel and do like public presentations and stuff, and
I think she sold it like a year or a year and a half ago, something like that.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
This is the point where we really need to get like a little MIDI soundboard or something, so we can get like. Yeah.
Yeah, the most tragic slide whistle I'd ever heard.
Seriously, like circa bingo, psychedelic friendship bingo. The way that they had that soundboard, it was a
Psychedelic friendship bingo.
psychedelic friendship
Friendship
bingo.
like
It was
the setting
those are
sun
words, yeah.
shines kindly light on everyone.
we stumbled into it at Lightning in a Bottle 2013, and it was a literally just a pop-up massive bingo hall. But yeah, we
Like
described
Carney
it.
Burning Man style.
Yeah,
like
I
it was
won't go
nuts.
into re-describing it because we went through it in the Long Walk podcast and explained what it was. But it was really cool because at the back of it, they legitimately had like a raised, like a second story soundboard and dudes up there with spotlights to like follow the announcers. It was super like
Sweet. That sounds great.
slutty, felt like a Hollywood dive bar. But the guy doing the spotlight work was in like a really evil clown costume, and every so often he like had the soundboard and he had all the sound effects that he'd punch, and it was amazing. It was like the best thing we'd ever seen, and I'd love to
My cheeks
love to
hurt.
be back there.
My cheeks hurt. My
experience that
stomach
again.
hurt from laughing so hard.
Yeah.
Girl got sprayed in the face with mustard for calling false bingo.
Yeah, while they were ruthless, just like squirt the mustard in someone's face. I got it. I can handle my plosive screen. All right. Well, is there anything we want to talk about, or do you want to wrap this one up?
Well, I've got some more things because there's we've covered like the risks, where Bitcoin came from, like
Yeah.
very roughly, very quickly. Like usually this takes hours to cover in detail.
I think we
We've
did a
gone
decent
on
job.
tangents.
I think we did a pretty decent job.
The only thing really left that's really on my mind about it is telling people like what it's used for and its future possibilities. I was reading a bunch of articles lately on how it could be applied to social media and data management, and that like there's a big concern lately on like how Facebook's selling personal information and other organizations selling personal information on social networks.
Are they selling my information for bitcoins?
I don't know.
You should get royalties for that. That is
Right?
your
Yeah.
information. Those are your bitcoins.
There was this guy that worked on Reddit, and apparently Reddit considered its own cryptocurrency for a little bit. So the guy that was in charge of that project moved on and is now working on his own decentralize all the things is what he calls his social
All the
network.
things.
Yeah,
All the
DAT.
things.
I love Reddit.
Dat.
And what he's thinking about doing is following the Bitcoin blockchain system is creating this network where no one has control over all that data. Like it's just in a public ledger, it's anonymous, but it's there. People can still like access all of that metadata that's usually sold, and it's just there for people to say, okay, what demographic are people doing this for?
Oh, so to devalue it, like making drugs legal so that so that like cartels don't have any power. Like if you just make all that information freely available, then they can't be selling it anymore.
True.
So if you just give up all your privacy completely, as opposed to only giving it to Facebook.
Yeah. Well, and even that giving up your privacy completely thing is kind of vague in that the way I picture this working is not so much, okay, the big argument with metadata and what I heard about the NSA scandal like 1 or 2 years ago was, okay, even though they can't hear your conversation, they still know you called this person at this time. It would be so vague that you wouldn't even know which person did what. You would just say, okay, this many calls are taking place at this kind of time, or this amount of people are sharing this image at this time. And there would become this huge, vast database of information that's just publicly there, publicly available, that's constantly getting updated, constantly getting verified, and no one owns it. And it's just networked across the planet. And no one would be able to shut it down. No one would own it.
So
the
isn't
entire
that like
electricity grid
starting
would-
Skynet, like just letting it.
this
it's
is
aware.
yeah, it's already there. It's being
That.
born.
So would nobody,
That.
if it got out of control or if something was wrong, like no one would have no one could interject and actually.
Well, you could
stop.
just delete the subreddit.
Delete
No
that
upvotes.
subreddit.
Just download it. Yeah,
Download
download
that
Skynet.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I'm kind of rambling and just sharing ideas that just came up today and in the last couple of days, and that there are a number of different possibilities for this aside from currency. There have been a number of banks getting involved in this. There have been a number of insurance agencies getting involved with this. The range of possibilities as far as having a publicly acknowledged list and database that just cannot be altered or tampered with for any individual's gain. It's just there. And I'll give you an example from that drop in the price in that article is that we mentioned earlier, is the guy's big concern was that somebody would get too much information and that they would just override the system, that it's too centralized. And that the thing about that is once anyone gets to that point, their value in that network crashes. And that having that system and that integrity maintained is what gives it its value.
Right.
And that it
Well,
just,
but like there is a lot of power in devaluing a system. Like, you know, I read I can't remember what book it is. It was some like, you know, theoretical geopolitics book where China basically they got enough of a handle on their own economy that North America wasn't their biggest importer anymore.
Yeah.
So they saw America as nothing but a threat. So what they did is they took $100 billion and doing careful investments into the stock market and taking money out at the proper time and reinvesting it. They completely crashed the American economy with $100 billion of carefully invested money. So like just by devaluing somebody else, you can gain a lot of power if you're the competition, right? So, you know, like Tanner was saying, if the Federal Reserve wanted to take over Bitcoin and then just devalued the entire system, then they'd have everybody who like tried to get out even more by the balls because those people would need loans to be able to buy food. Like, you know, that it could be used very maliciously.
in that theory, because we are dealing in hypotheticals, I can't really say for sure what would happen, but I would say a lot of people would suffer in the meantime, but because the software is still there, it would pop up again in another iteration.
Yeah,
And-
well, there's already backups, like backup plans with the other currencies
Yeah,
that are
it-
trying to become what Bitcoin has in terms of popularity, right?
Mm-hmm. And even if you didn't even want an alternative, let's say our hypothetical of the Federal Reserve or one bank or one organization just hoarding everything, you could just literally take a duplicate and say Bitcoin 2.0, and it is literally the exact same, but it's not in one person's hands, and just start mining again, if you really wanted to. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about this because it is still a test in theory, but from everyone that I've heard and done research on in podcasts thus far, it would be like trying to get rid of the internet. It's a technology that's here to stay.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
can-
That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
So One thing we haven't talked about. One of us in the room has a substantial amount of Bitcoin.
Well, substantial is relative. For someone that's working...
He's a fucking billionaire.
Oh yes.
But they're Bitcoins, so
What is it
He's a
called when you're a
Bitcoiner.
baller with Bitcoin? Is it still just a baller?
I would think so. I haven't heard...
yeah, like how many Bitcoins does it take to make it rain?
20%.
I think two. I think 2 Bitcoins.
2 Bitcoins?
Because $1,000 is generally the minimum for making it rain.
Is it really?
Well,
That's what
it
yeah,
depends on what
like-
kind of currency you're dealing with. Because if you're in the
1,000,
United, if you're in the if you're in
said
the United,
dollars.
no, if you're in the United States of America and you have $1 bills, you got a fat stack of $1 bills, and you're
Yeah,
doing
$200
this.
bucks.
You're still
You can
making
make
it
rain
rain.
with $200 dollar bills. Even 50.
You could I guess technically make it rain, but a stripper doesn't consider it making it rain.
I will gladly take $200 in $1 bills. It's still $200.
Are you gonna take your clothes off and like dance on stage for me?
Let's talk.
Well, like, what's
Wait,
the
wait,
exchange
wait.
rate? Can I give you 200 Canadian dollars in American $1 bills? Maybe like
Let's talk.
150 American dollars.
Yeah, this is a market that Bitcoin can't tamper with because you cannot throw coins at a stripper, and it's just not as entertaining as scanning a QR code.
Like QR codes.
You're throwing your ripped up pieces of paper with your codes on it, just like, here, take this. I swear it's worth something.
Well, she can just have a little like a scanner built into her G-string or something, and then like
As she
you know,
walks
like,
past you, you
grab
can
it,
just
yeah.
like shine it up to
Yeah.
her, like, thanks, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Scan the nipple.
QR code pasties on her tits. Can
That'd be a
we?
good look.
Good look. What? Yeah,
Sorry.
Are we still recording?
No, yeah, it went to screensaver. Oh, it's fine. It's good.
Okay.
I think it got offended when we were talking about
How many
strippers.
places in Calgary can you use Bitcoin? Like, really, realistically, what are we at right now?
All that I've discovered thus far is the Sandman hotels and those ATMs at the Waves coffee shop.
Did I hear PayPal was transitioning to?
PayPal was thinking about implementing it, and I think that they have actually, as far as if a vendor wishes to choose, like aside from the debit credit options, that they can include Bitcoin.
Yep.
They're either thinking about it or they already have.
And Amazon, too, we said earlier.
Amazon hasn't technically.
Oh.
It was I don't know what actual Amazon gift credits are. I've never dealt with them. But I think if you're gifted something from Amazon and you want to return it, they'll give you gift credits as part of that return. And there are other services in which ways you get those. But because apparently there are several $1 million worth of Amazon gift credits that are just unspent. There's just people sitting on them
Right, you
because they
explained
can't.
Well,
to
I'm
me.
fairly certain that it would be an instance of, you, like, when you send a gift, like, even when you're buying music online, you can choose to buy this song and send it to somebody as a gift. So if that sits in a person's email or gets deleted, that gift is still sitting there. It's still something that was paid for with actual dollars by a person that was gifting it, and if it's never claimed, then it's just kind of sitting in limbo. I would assume that it would be the same thing with Amazon. Because when you buy, like when we were talking about the wish list before, you buy something off of a person's wish list as a gift. You pay for it and then it gets sent to them. But I would assume that there would have to be some sort of like confirmation email that you would get. If you never confirm, then I guess that money's just sitting in limbo.
That's the thing, is that you need to be, as far as I'm aware, the purse system needs some refinement still. And that the way it works is, yes, you make your list, you post on their website and say, will someone buy this for me? I will give you Bitcoins. And obviously it's not like an auction. It's just, here's a database of lists of these values, who has the gift credits for it, and who's willing to accept Bitcoins for that trade. And that once that trade's gone over, you are sent that gift. And then once you receive it, you do need to check received. You do need to confirm that.
Yeah.
But if you're someone on Purse that doesn't click that confirm thing, I have not used Purse yet. I have a wish list building up of books. Well, I do want to test the system. But if I don't click it, I assume I get a bad reputation, or that there's
Right.
a banning system in
Response
place.
time or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. Well, I guess also same thing with when you send an Interact money transfer through your email, if you don't accept it right away, you'll get another email saying like, okay, well, your money transfer is going to expire if you don't confirm it, and then the money just gets sent back to the sender.
Yeah.
Have you bought anything with your Bitcoin at all yet?
No.
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 What do you plan to do for your first?
I want to buy a USB stick to have my my other reserve of Bitcoin stored in cold storage.
The first thing you do when you get money is buy a wallet.
Yeah.
I need somewhere to put my money.
And because of Newegg, I can do that.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
there's
So
that.
when you say cold storage, do you mean you're actually going to put it in a cold place?
Yes, in a freezer, locked away somewhere.
Yeah.
No.
No,
No,
well, it doesn't
cold storage
USB
is
sticks.
no electricity flowing through it. It's just
Oh, okay, I
offline.
see.
No one can hack it. No one can steal it.
But,
unless it ages so long that the USB just
right,
dies.
because they deteriorate, right?
Yeah, you want to put it on like vinyl.
Press it.
Oh, then it'll just warp.
Oh, actually, sorry, I just thought of a really good idea. Calgary recently got a vinyl pressing situation. They would be awesome to have on the podcast. You should write that down.
Write that
Sorry,
down.
I will write it down. Sorry.
But yeah, write it down.
Write that down.
With this pen?
And the paper right here, so I remember
Right
it
now?
now.
You're telling me to write that down. You have the pen and paper to your right side.
Okay.
I'm on your left.
Got it.
Tanner, did you write that down?
Yep.
But yeah, like until Bitcoin isn't so volatile, it's really not going to be adopted by like major chain stores and stuff like that, because like Austin was saying, what's worth $20 in Bitcoins at the beginning of the day could only be $10 at the end of the day. So it really doesn't make sense. Like nobody's gonna want to trade in it. Nobody's gonna want to use it for commodities, like because
Yeah.
it's too volatile.
Especially
It's like if you wanted to buy things with the price of gasoline. Like
Yeah.
like it changes every day, so you really don't know what
I think
it's
there
worth.
was an underlying pun in the volatility of gasoline there somewhere.
Boom.
Drink.
Drink.
I'm out of beer.
Sorry, I think we went through all the rest of our beer for this one. This is Bitcoin is a very alcohol-fueled concept.
Yes, when you're talking numbers, it just you have to drink to get through it.
Oh, we didn't have a 2.6 of rum or anything for this one.
Yeah, we didn't have any Russians either.
Yeah, right. The Russian, he's actually donating a mini fridge to the
Yes.
Genesa ThoughtLab podcast.
That's exciting.
Which is right beside Ben's room.
Dangerous. Wait, I just drink warm beer in my room all the time. This is going to make my life a lot better. This is going to be a good thing.
Well, do we want to talk about anything else, or do you want to wrap it up?
Did you two have any other further questions for this?
No, I think
Yeah.
I think it's been fun.
I think it was good. I think we did a good
I'm
job.
glad we got to talk shit about the flat Earth concept.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it so much. Like, I can't get it out of my
You
head.
can't get away from
like
it.
I'm trying to think of something that like isn't an obvious falsehood. Like I'm trying to find something to believe in about it,
I
and there's
know.
just nothing. Like
I-
everything is instantly debunkable. Like
I had a friend try and convince me like it's
hey,
like an actual
volcanoes.
close to
Where
home
does that
person.
lava come from?
From
Outer space below us though.
have you ever done icing
has
on a
to be in
cake?
line with
Where you do like the
scriptures.
what's
Yes, exactly.
what's it called when you put icing in the icing flute or whatever? Where you ice a
The
cake?
icing flute?
What-
What tone does
That's
it
a
make?
dick euphemism if I've ever heard one.
Oh, what's it called? The bag.
Piping bag.
Piping bag. Sorry. Pipe flute.
That's cute.
All right.
That's cute.
Okay, and done.
No, we're not ending. We're gonna end. I forgot
What
to.
was that in relation to? Volcanoes?
Oh
Yeah, volcano.
that's
I was
how
gonna say it
volcanoes
was
work.
just whatever. It's a piping bag squeezing up from beneath.
Whose hand?
Okay,
God,
so
who else?
Who's cupping the balls
if the
below,
Earth is
man?
flat, how do they know what
shit.
like the bottom of the Earth is shaped like? That's probably a sphere,
Yeah,
right?
well-
It's like half a sphere.
No, that would have to be flat too.
We
Why?
should just ask Christopher Columbus.
It's impossible to
Don't
see.
ask me why. Anyways.
Yeah, we forgot to play around with the lights. We got these.
Oh yeah, check it out.
The podcast studio. Shout out to Philips Hue lights. Seriously, everybody.
Yeah, brown
Get
chicken,
on
brown
it.
cow.
Actually, Brandon said that he
can,
wanted to come over and play with it. He thinks that they are.
You can just do whatever.
Well, he wants to play with them.
Yeah, I know. On audio, you have no idea what's going on, but we're playing. There's a little color wheel on.
I took a
on the
picture.
phone.
Blue,
When we first
purple,
got them, I took a
pink,
picture.
orange.
Red.
You done? When we first got them, I took a picture of Ben's sweater, and you can program it. Program the room to the theme of Ben's sweater.
Yeah, right. You can just pick up the colors from an image. Pretty
That's
sweet
pretty
product. Very poor plug. I don't think we're gonna
Sponsored
pick them up.
by-
As
We're
a
not sponsored
sponsor.
by. We can't say that shit. We can't pretend.
No, this is definitely sponsored by Old Milwaukee. Not the company, but all of the beers that were on the table.
All right, thanks
right.
for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being had.
You've been had.
No, this was really good.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. I don't even know what the next one is. We have no schedule. If you guys want to be on a podcast or if you have any friggin' suggestions, let us know.
Yeah.
So,
Let's do it. We will have you.
peace out.
The Genesa ThoughtLab Video Podcast.